Good morning and welcome to Judging by the Cover, the gaming review show where I rate games that I have not played and I score them based on the store pages. Today we are continuing our dive into deep space. Okay, maybe not quite deep space. That might be a little bit of a misnomer because this time we're looking at a new game that had come out very recently, Pragmata. Now, this game has been blowing up a little bit on social medias, and maybe not for the reasons you might think. There have been feeds going on strictly about the android character in this game and how the dynamic developing around this character is just one of the absolute most wholesome experiences that you could imagine in a potentially dystopian sci fi nightmare. And that is baffling to me that that is the vibe that this has gotten. Now, Pragmata was recommended to me by a friend to look at. They had mentioned that it was a new game that had come out, and it had completely slipped under my radar had it not been for them mentioning it and the explosion on social media that came out of this. So, we're going to be diving into this and looking at things starting from our store description, like we do with our reviews. Scrolling down, we do see they do have a Pragmata sketchbook, which is the demo for the game. They call it Sketchbook, which lets you try out the combat system that engages both sides of your brain, while you also get to experience what it's like to traverse the lunar station. It does say that it might vary a little bit from the actual core, like final release gameplay, so I'm wondering how early in development this demo might have been put out. But it is kind of a cool thing. They do have that available there to kind of get your feet wet and jump in if you're interested in it. But I know because it is one of those big AAA titles from Capcom, the price point might be a little off putting depending on a person's budget. But we're going to go ahead and take a look and see if my extremely biased and frugal opinions think that this is worth the price tag once we get down there. There is also a deluxe edition, which basically comes with the Shelter Variety Pack. We're going to look into that a little bit more later. But for now, we're going into the core game. Starting with Wherever You Go, I Will Be There. Pragmata is a unique sci fi action adventure game from Capcom. Follow Hugh, a member of an ill fated investigation team, and Diana, a young android, as they navigate a lunar facility taken over by rogue AI in search of a way to Earth. One tragic accident, an unlikely duo. At a remote lunar research facility, humanity discovers a new ore that, when properly refined, can be used to create almost anything using 3D printers. That sounds incredibly groundbreaking and incredibly dangerous. When this facility suddenly falls silent, Hugh and his team are dispatched to investigate, but then disaster strikes. Hugh is saved by Diana, a lone android wandering the complex. The two of them must join forces and find a way to off the moon while working their way through an AI controlled facility bent on stopping them. So I'm kind of getting a little bit of, Skynet or uh what is it or the well, basically one of those kinds of all-encompassing powerful AIs just generating the robots to try and either go for self-preservation or to wipe out something, whatever it views as a threat to its existence. Half-realized replicas of human civilization sprawl across the lunar surface, while inside only scattered traces of the facility's vanished inhabitants remain. What buried truth awaits at the end of Hugh and Diana's journey? So, on top of the escape, you're also dealing with a whole storyline of finding out the mystery of what happened. Considering that a lot of this lunar sitting that we're seeing here, like it looks like a legit human city on the moon that they were preparing to colonize, probably with this 3D printing technology. And then some shit hit the fan. That's the kind of vibe that I'm getting from the visuals and from this brief description. Take control of the two characters at the same time. Guide both Hugh as he moves, shoots, and jumps, and Diana who hacks at the same time. Enjoy a fresh new blend of gameplay in this truly unique system that will push your brain to its limits. And this kind of visual with Diana riding on Hugh's back, like it does kind of remind me a little bit of of like some of the newer Donkey Kong games. I think like one of them would have Diddy or Cranky riding on Donkey Kong's back, or the new Donkey Kong on the Switch 2 with Pauline riding for as basically your singing accompaniment for your journey. It feels like they're kind of going with that idea. Now, I am not saying that Pragmata ripped off Donkey Kong. That is not the vibe I'm getting here. It is just a comparison drawn for the similarity and kind of how they're tying that into the gameplay and using Diana's identity as this small android with the hacking ability to break into the systems of the lunar colony as an interesting way to go ahead and kind of separate the jobs between them. Where, Hugh is an investigator and a soldier, and Diana is the android. Like, she very clearly has skills that Hugh doesn't have. On a narrative scale, I can see it giving an interesting separation of jobs, basically. Instead of having one character who's a jack of all trades and a master of everything he does, to where, he feels like he's completely min-max. No. Hugh, narratively, how this goes, it feels kind of limiting to like in a realistic way where he is a limited human character with his own training and his own set of skills that still wasn't enough to survive for you know an hour on this colony, because apparently Diana had to find his dying body and bring him back to health so that they could work together and figure out what's going on and hopefully escape. That's kind of a cool thing that they have going on here. And that is just the kind of vibe that I'm getting narratively from this very brief breakdown that I've seen so far. Now, Pragmata does also have three trailers up right now, and I get the feeling that if they keep adding content to it, the trailers are probably going to explode over the course of 6 months or 3 years, depending on how much more goes into this game after its initial launch. So, what we have here with our first trailer shows us a little bit of a cinematic look of the moon, of Diana, and how their connection starts out, where they do have to work together in both combat and exploration settings. We do see a little bit of a snippet of the home base, and the home base is kind of the main thing that is also blown up on social media, as far as I've seen, and how Hugh and Diana interact as characters, where the internet has basically universally accepted that she is the player's adopted daughter. Like, that is 100% what's going on here. Whatever qualms Hugh might have about the artificial intelligence going on, like, Diana is absolutely like a just icon of precious innocence, based on what we've seen on the socials and what we've seen here with them trying to work together. And that seems to be the ultimate thing here when they showcase the hacking and the run and gun shooting situation, like the whole two sides of everything, where both seem to be important in the gameplay. Now, Capcom is boasting that it's a revolutionary system that'll just bring you to the limits of your brain. I feel like that kind of wording might be overselling it a little bit. Like, I feel like they're trying to push the marketing a little too hard with that wording, when really they could have just banked on the emotional draw of these characters, the thing that people have latched onto. If they had focused on that, it could have been maybe a little bit more of an interesting dynamic for how that goes. Our second trailer goes in a little bit of a similar vein, some of the same, with extra cinematic scenes showing us a second android character tied to a tree, uh, basically bound in this sealed containment. um, they seem to be hinting at more of the story and the system that they need to take down in order to escape, because something about the system has gone apparently beyond its parameters, and the AI, the androids, do seem to be in agreement that this thing needs to come down. So whatever's going on, where however far this is in the story, it seems to be a little bit farther, since they do refer to her as Diana and not as her given name that Hugh had given her. But the other android they do call eight, considering Diana's number ended in seven. I'm guessing eight was, the next iteration of the android or whatever was next in the series. We do have a third trailer floating around in here. The third trailer does give us a little bit of a little bit of a view of the world building with what looks like a commercial from the company that would have been driving this technology and trying to utilize it for whatever revolutionary thing they're doing on the moon. This Luna filament having gone through multiple generations of refinement, the AI basically taking complete control of it to instantly craft and make anything that they need. It does seem very ambitious for the in universe company, but I can also see how that with the Delphi Corporation going wrong, which is kind of hinted at when they have the end of the thing go a little glitchy as we get more dialogue with Hugh and Diana, discussing what they want, their goals, what's going on, and figuring out what Diana wants because even though she is a machine, she still has some degree of sentience and has proven to be not only useful, because I don't want to frame it as we're only giving value to things that have use, but that she has the capacity to care and interact in a way that is so close to human. She has basically become her own person, especially in the face of everything going on where she is trying to protect living things. We do see a little snippet of the fight sequences with her hacking playing a major part in it. So it is, again, like I've said before, a cool dynamic. I really do appreciate that they have that where it's the second character. Like I mentioned it with the Donkey Kong comparison, or for another comparison, if anybody remembers Star Fox Adventures, Prince Tricky had a very similar dynamic, except he would have to follow you. The game was like a long escort quest instead of having him ride on your back. But over the course of the game, he would unlock abilities to help you traverse and get like bypass certain benchmarks in the game. The kind of progression that you have out of things, but this time it's tied to an android who, again, riding on your back using hacking powers to get through a whole bunch of computer stuff. I really do appreciate the dynamic they took with that and that they made it a character that is not annoying as shit. Ask anybody who has played Star Fox Adventures about Prince Tricky, or anybody who's played Legend of Zelda on the Nintendo 64 about Navi, and you will get them just to go off on that stuff. The screenshots do show a lot of similar with beautifully rendered graphics going on with the character designs, the layouts, and the character designs with their spacesuits and the machines and everything. Everything about it looks intentional. Like everything looks like it was designed to be this high tech thing. And maybe they don't have the full explanation of what exactly like every little panel and everything does, because that might be a little superfluous. But considering that this is a future where, you have this super advanced printing technology, I can see this being incredibly useful. The lunar landscape is a beautiful thing to look at. I almost wonder, like, what exact rendering they took to make all of this within what looks like your enclosed little home space here at the edge of the base. We do see a whole little sequence going on with the fight scenes again, more jumping. It is cool to see that the spacesuit, that Hugh's suit, has so much utility here where the suit's technology is a large degree of his actual movement, where you see jets and thrusters going off. He's not just some action hero with astounding feats of superhuman strength and agility. His spacesuit is one of the things guiding him, but it's not so much to the degree of like Iron Man flying and blasting through everything. It's like, no, it is made with regular like human intention as to how this kind of thing might work out. And it even shows it in the combat situations when he's sidestepping, you see his suit pushing off with jets. We do see a close up of one of the androids, which definitely feels like it has some uncanny valley shit going on. And honestly, again, like I said, it feels intentional. The developers and the animators, it looks like they wanted this thing to be creepy, like to a creepy degree of human roboticism. And honestly, I'm here for it. Given what we've seen so far and how the struggle against the station AI and the machines that it has to neutralize the threat being, Hugh and Diana for whatever reason, and what they're threatening, who knows? We got this whole thing. They got computer generated barriers here locking them into these fight scenes, which, given that this is a high-tech situation with printing machines, I could see them using this as a decent in-universe reason to lock you into a battlefield and not being able to just bypass and run through things. Although why a computer would disengage those kinds of fields just because you took out a guard, like, I would think they could do that, but then again, Diana's also a hacker, so even if they did that, it wouldn't really matter too much in the long run. There's just so much going on with all of these that, like I said, it feels incredibly intentional. It's very hard for me to find fault with most of what's going on here. I do see there that is also available on the Switch too. So, oh geez, did I never look into that? I never looked into this thing being Switch available. But anyway, graphically speaking, the game does look gorgeous. The scenes, both the cutscenes and the gameplay, look like they are incredibly well put together. Definitely something worth thinking about as far as all of this goes. If you like the pretty graphics, I know a lot of times I will go in the school of thought that a game does not need incredible graphics if it's fun, if it's cohesive, and that's not to say that the game should be able to look outright ugly. I would like the game to have a little bit of an aesthetic look, but it doesn't have to be like this hyper realistic like photorealism kind of thing. But with the level of animation and detail that we have to Diana and Hugh and the androids in the environment, it very much does feel like they really wanted to mm, paint that it feels like a piece of art the way they put this together. Everything looks intentional, the character designs, and the fact that Diana has basically just become everybody's daughter that must be protected at all costs. Everything about how she's portrayed that I've seen so far has been incredible in that regard. The sound design, the music selection for the trailers is beautiful. It does give that kind of emotional evocation, which again makes it feel kind of weird that they lean so heavy into how the game is going to use both sides of your brain and bring you to the limits of your thinking, when really they could have leaned more into the emotional aspect of the game, the way that the trailer sounds like, where they want to draw you in with the story and the relationship with Diana and Hugh, with the emotional backdrop and the music and the conversational snippets that we get there. I feel like that would have just been a more appropriate angle to take with the wording, considering that the sound and the visuals of the trailers kind of go against that. You're going to be thinking super hard about everything about the action and the gameplay, when really it's like the gameplay looks solid. I am not denying that. The exploration looks good. The combat looks engaging. Hopefully, if there's any kind of skill trees or anything that you're supposed to be getting as you go along, which we didn't see skill trees, I'm not banking on that. But if there's anything like that, hopefully they do feel rewarding. Hopefully the hack skills are nice. But the core gameplay does seem to revolve a lot around the story. It almost feels kind of Bioshocky in that regard, I guess, where there is a lot of action gameplay and systems in place for you, the player, to manipulate and work with as you progress and boost your skills. But at the same time, the core is still about the story and the decisions you make along that story. And I feel like I wish the store page would emphasize that more past the trailers. If they could emphasize that in the descriptions as opposed to the "we're going to break your brain here." It's like you had it at the emotional benchmark. We don't really see much of the UI or the menus, which most of the time I usually see as a potential negative. But if the game does not have like full blown skill trees and item inventories and unlockables, like it does show that there are some things you unlock, but it does seem like there's not going to be as much focus on that. Now, maybe there is some of that in there. This is purely a judgment based on the store page. The way this is framed makes it look less like you're going to be picking up and collecting and hoarding materials and crafting and all of that. It looks more like they are trying to tell this story and to focus on the action from moment to moment with some moments of relaxation in between those in between possible excursions into the lunar station. So overall, it looks good. It looks like they do a pretty solid job of delivering what they promise. I just feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect between the emotional weight of the trailers and the gameplay emphasis of the written description. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there. I do see that it is also available on the Nintendo Switch. And now we're going to get to everybody's favorite subject, pricing, because everybody cares about money, especially the companies. So let's take a look at the pricing. $59.99, so $60 for the baseline, which AAA game from Capcom, especially one that looks like this, that's about what I would expect. And then we do have the deluxe edition, which is basically just the this shelter variety pack that comes packaged into that deluxe edition. That's basically all that is. So you could buy the variety pack for $15, or if you pay an extra $10, you get the deluxe edition. Now, what do you get for the deluxe edition, and does it justify that higher cost? Because, like I said, that $60 price tag feels like exactly what I would expect. I personally would wait for it to go on sale because, again, when you are thinking of buying something, you have to weigh the time and the money that the time and the replayability that you think you're going to get out of it, especially if you're buying it on a digital platform. Sometimes, if it's a physical one, you know, you get the physical little game cartridge, and then when you're done with it, you can go and sell it or trade it in or whatever. But with the digital one, it's like, no, you pay that $60, you just have that. You don't get refunded on that. Um, but now we're going to look at, is this deluxe edition worthwhile? So looking down here now, it does have its own page, but we're just going to go ahead and take a look at this little snapshot because this snapshot does explain everything that comes with the deluxe edition with enough clarity. It comes with two Hue outfits, two Diana outfits, a weapon skin for the grip gun, three background musics for your shelter, three gestures for Diana, and the data library artwork, which is basically a fancy word for the art book. For those kinds of art galleries for games, not entirely foreign to these kinds of deluxe editions. Now, everything else about it, it's purely cosmetic. If you are the kind of person who doesn't care about art books and you don't care about like just bonus cosmetics, you lose out on nothing by skipping out on the deluxe edition or the shelter variety pack. The little music the background music could be a kind of a cool thing because Diana has her little dances. That's been a large thing of the social media, is just Diana just dancing like an absolute innocent little goober, and everybody loves it and for none of the creepy reasons either. Now there are people out there who probably lean that way, but seriously, let's keep this on the wholesome side because, like I said, the internet has agreed Diana is everybody's daughter and will be protected at all costs. Uh, Now, if you want those things, $10 to $15, especially since it does come with that art book, does sound, I think, like a fair bargain for that. does raise the total price of the game to 70 $75 depending on how you purchase it. But with those kinds of things, getting the art book was something that is a kind of collector thing that certain people enjoy. And for the people that like those kinds of things, that like to see some of that behind the scenes stuff, that's a way for them to go ahead and give a little bit of extra support to the developers. And hopefully, the support does actually benefit the developers and not like the actual people that put the work in, and not just, the big wigs at Capcom. That can always be like a whole other discussion. But at the very least, I do feel like 10 to 15 for the deluxe edition or the variety pack, it does seem like a fair price for it, considering that they're also not adding in any kind of stupid pay to win shenanigans. It's not like you're paying extra money and then unlocking all of your hacking abilities right at the start of the game. No, you still play through the game normally. You don't get like some kind of big bonus exclusive weapon that nobody else has access to, which on the other hand, it's not a PvP game, so it's not like you're getting an advantage over other players. It's just kind of like buying things to basically buy an easy mode of the game might just kind of hit the wrong way for some people. But overall, a little cosmetic bundle with the art book does seem like a fair value here for people who like that kind of thing. For people who don't care about that stuff, again, you miss out on nothing. $60 for the base game, or wait 6 months, wait a year, wait 2 years, see if it goes on sale, see if there's a price drop. But this is definitely something that looks like it would be on my radar for a lot of reasons. The gameplay, again, it does seem engaging, and I love that the internet has taken to so faithfully to the emotional angle of this game that honestly the internet, I think, and social media has done more for the marketing of this game than the store page ever could. That said, this review is about the store page and not the social media. The social media stuff is just kind of one of the things that heightened my awareness of this game and may have ultimately led me to wanting to do the review for this game specifically. Because let's be fair, there are tons of games about space, both new and old. And we do have 3 more space reviews to do for this month. That said, Capcom, like, people say that Capcom really needs to get back to making like a good Mega Man or a good they've also had some bangers coming out with Monster Hunters. Again, a series that I have not personally been invested in, but I know that it has a huge fandom and a huge community around it. So Capcom is making good games with their IPs that people love and enjoy. Maybe less with the Mega Man, since those are mostly re-releases these days, but they are putting out good work and major numbers with this kind of thing. And I seriously hope that the kind of attention that Pragmata has gotten does lead to more new IPs. Because a lot of times companies will go and try and, shall we say, they'll lean on what's safe. They'll lean on the things that they know sell titles, which is going to be their established IPs. But seeing something new like this basically hit the internet by storm as this sci-fi action adventure, which basically ended up with the internet has adopted as Protect the Daughter Simulator. And honestly, I would like to see more new IPs get this kind of love from not only the community, but from development studios as well. That said, it is time to give this game a score, which is incredibly difficult because I know I've been singing its praises. Its visuals and its gameplay and its narrative do draw me in. That said, however, I think the social media has done more to draw me into this than the store page itself. Although the those social media things have neglected on certain things, like a lot of the core gameplay, since most of them are just kind of showing short snippets. But then there's like the second trailer. The second trailer does a lot of heavy lifting for trying to add to the emotional weight of the game, which I think does kind of make up for that lack of extra oomph that the description kind of fell off on. The trailers do a lot of the lifting for pushing this in a positive direction. So that said, I think I'm going to give the store the store page. Remember, we're reviewing the store page. Internet, please do not crucify me if you don't like my score. Please, we can have a rational discussion about this. I am giving the store page of Pragmata a 7 out of 10. Remember, please don't crucify me. We can talk about this. I do think, like I said before, that there is a bit of a disconnect with how they wrote the description for the game and how they made the trailers for the game. The kind of things that they focused on the trailer really draw me in again to the story and the emotional connection between what is essentially a space marine and a more humanized version of Johnny Five. I want to get this game. I want to play this game. I want to see this whole story play out. I want to know what happens to them. And I swear, if anything happens if anything happens to Diana but at the end of the game, I am going to cry like a little bitch. If I'm completely honest. I'm just throwing that out there. But like I said, the store description down here really does nothing to sell that. They do talk about the lunar facility, the 3D printers, and being saved and helped with this AI Diana robot, but they really don't talk about the emotional weight of everything going on. They don't talk about your home base, which a large amount of the social media explosion about this game has been about their interactions in the home base, like Diana playing on a slide or spinning a globe. Those kinds of things are left completely out of the material, which on one hand is a nice thing to let the players discover, but when you show absolutely none of that and none of the base decorating with the things that you 3D print, they talk about this 3D printing, but they don't tell you anything about how that is used in your experience as the player outside of the action oriented gameplay. They don't show any of the slower moments of brevity and the emotional weight behind that. They do just show a little bit of the conversation between Hugh and Diana in just a few repeated lines. And I feel like they really should have leaned more into that emotional aspect that social media took and ran with. It's that social media campaign from the players, the content creators, the users out there that are basically giving this game free advertising that they drop the ball on here, especially like I got it. I just pulled it up here on the Nintendo Switch. Same exact game, same exact pricing, same exact DLC package. So, if you want it on PC or on console, I'm hoping it runs and looks fine on the Switch too. Uh, I know hardware specifications can sometimes be a little weird. Um, but this is the kind of thing where if it goes on sale, I hope to God it runs well and that my computer and my system or my Switch can handle it fine because I am invested. But I feel like if I did not have that social media campaign, I would have just been on the fence where I can see myself, okay, if this goes on like a 40-50% sale, I would think from what I know right now, definitely getting it. But if I had not seen any of that social media drive that has catapulted this game into much more widespread recognition, I probably would have been waiting for like a 70 or higher percent discount. That said, I am personally going to be waiting on a discount just because of my own time and budget. But at the same time, I do feel like the price they have on this, it looks worth it as far as a AAA title is concerned. And I do hope that for the people who did pay full price for this game, I sincerely hope that you guys feel that you got the value out of it, not just in the game, not just in a video game sense, but in an experience kind of sense, because the game does look like it wants to deliver a heart wrenching story for the players outside of just being pretty pixels on a screen. That's my impression of Pragmata. Hopefully, hopefully whatever we're looking at next week can be a little lighter because with the intensity of what these two characters are going in on alone and stranded on this lunar base, I am scared that seeing whatever happens at the end of the story might break me.